Thursday, February 23rd, 2023, Maneko 64, home of alternative economics and contrarian views. Today we're going to look at how the globalists or the Davos crowd, they're really ratcheting up the pressure on us. They're trying to bring in a global economic tyranny, really, through the back door. And yes, we're going to look at what Tony Blair and William Hague said yesterday. And they're both from different spectrum of the political establishment. And it just goes to show that there is no spectrum, really. They're all controlled by the bankers and the globalists. And yes, I talk a lot about how one should protect themselves through having some gold and silver outside the system. But today I want to talk a little bit about taxation, seeing that the people in charge are taxing us even more. And especially here in the UK, we've got the biggest tax burden since World War II, I think in 70 years. We're going to see the Freedom Tax Day move to almost the middle of the year by 2026. What is Tax Freedom Day? Well, that's the day that the British public stops funding the state. And the further it gets along the calendar year, it means the more we're paying, the less free we are. I think in 2022, Tax Freedom Day was June 8th. In 2010, it was May 30th. And by 2026, it's going to be June 24th. The middle of the year usually is July 2nd, with the exception of leap years, of course. So, yeah, there was the old saying back during the American Revolution, no taxation without representation. No digital ID, of course, without representation, but they don't seem to care about this anymore. And that's why I want to tell you about a company that is helping people claim back a lot of tax here in the UK. So if you're not in the UK, you might want to skip forward in this video. But if you are in the UK, you might not be eligible, but some of your friends and family might be eligible, so you might want to listen to this. So the company is called Swift Refunds, and what they do is, if you're a mobile worker working in lots of different locations to do your job, you could be entitled to a tax rebate related to food, travel, uniform, and equipment costs. Of course, this is not for self-employed people. This is for people who are employed, PAYE. So if you want to learn more about Swift Refunds, click on the link in the description and fill out the questionnaire, and you'll find out very quickly, within I think 30 seconds, whether you are eligible for claiming a rebate. And what Swift Refund does is that they're a registered agent of HMRC, and they'll help you go through the whole process of claiming back. Up to 4 years you could be eligible for. And the average 4-year, which is the maximum rebate, is about £2,500. Of course, they will charge you for that. Their costs are 22% plus VAT. That's for the standard claim, and it takes 8 to 12 weeks. If you want to fast track your claim, that's 27% plus VAT. And of course, if you're a higher rate taxpayer, if you earn more than $50,000, your claim could be bigger than that average claim because you're paying 40p in the pound, and you might get 40p in the pound. And there's also a Swift guarantee. So if HMRC challenges your claim at a later date, Swift Refunds will pay it. So that's part of the tax back guarantee. And if you call them instead of going online through my link, make sure you say that Maneko 64 sent you there. So with no further ado, let's go back to the globalist. And we're going to start actually with a comment or part of what David Rockefeller said in his book Memoirs, which was published, I think, in 2002. So this is what he said. And I think this was in 1991, he made that quote. We are grateful to the Washington Post, the New York Times, Time Magazine, and other great publications whose directors have attended our meetings and respected their promises of discretion for almost 40 years. It would have been impossible for us to develop our plan for the world if we had been subjected to the lights of publicity during those years. But the world is more sophisticated and prepared to march towards a world government. The supranational sovereignty of an intellectual elite and world bankers is surely preferable to the national autodetermination practiced in the past centuries. So this was, I think, in 1990 or 91, he said that, and it's in his memoirs. This is the other thing that he said here, and I'm taking this from Goodreads. For more than a century, ideological extremists at either end of the political spectrum have seized upon well-publicized incidents such as my encounter with Castro to attack the Rockefeller family for the inordinate influence they claim we wield over American political and economic institutions. Some even believe we're part of a secret cabal working against the best interests of the United States, characterizing my family and me as internationalists, and of conspiring with others around the world to build a more integrated global political and economic structure, one world, if you will. If that's the charge, I stand guilty, and I'm proud of it. So he quoted that in his memoirs as well. So do I have any hope? Are people waking up to the fact that the bankers, the technocrats, these big internationalists seem to be winning the battle? They're gonna try to bring in digital IDs. That's the only way to bring you like the CBDC as well. Well, you would think people would wake up with the internet, but just like the Washington Post, New York Times, and others kept this quiet back in the 80s, 90s, and 70s, the current crowd of mainstream social media platforms are doing the same, and the old legacy mainstream media is also doing the same, and they do this through ignoring all these things, through calling you a conspiracy theorist. So yesterday we had this announcement by the Tony Blair Institute along with William Hague. William Hague was at one point the leader of the Conservative Party. Tony Blair, of course, is Labor. So it goes to show that these guys are on the same page. They're just like actors for these globalist, internationalist bankers. They're not there to represent you. So the mainstream media, of course, here in the UK, they've buried the story about Nord Stream 2 and Seymour Hersh, of course, but they didn't bury Tony Blair and William Hague's call for the digital ID cards for all. So you can see here, it's all over the BBC, Sky News, it's over in the Times, in the Independent, all the major suspects, of course. So before we look at what these guys, these bozos, Blair and Hague are calling for, let's look at who's behind the Tony Blair Institute for Global Change. Let's look who their partners are or their funders are, because this paper about digital IDs for all in the UK was prepared by the Tony Blair Institute. So here we go. The Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, the Anti-Defamation League, ADL, Lawrence Ellison Foundation, Microsoft Philanthropies, APAC, Asia Pacific countries, Microsoft Philanthropies, MEA, Middle East, and Africa? Oh, the Rockefeller Foundation. UBS, the Swiss bank, that's been bailed out by the U.S. taxpayer. So these are the people behind the Tony Blair Foundation for Global Change. So let's go through this story here, and I've taken it from biometricupdate.com. I'm not going to go into the mainstream publications. I think this is a good way to look at it. Tony Blair Institute calls for decentralized government-issued digital ID for all. That's an oxymoron in itself. Decentralized government-issued. It's a monopoly, of course. Government isn't a monopoly. Tony Blair Institute for Global Change is calling for a change of course in the government's digital ID program to provide a comprehensive digital identity rather than approve various solutions under different schemes. The UK press is expressing confusion about the proposal. A new national purpose innovation can power the future for Britain. This is just like trying to distract you, saying this is a good thing for Britain, right? They always come out with that. And I'm going to put a link to this in the description. And one thing that I found interesting is what William Hague said here. And I've highlighted it for you. It says the country needs to be using data as a competitive asset, according to Hague, as the country looks at the bigger picture of embracing change. Yeah, always beware when politicians talk about change. This is what politics has to be about, not just small variations in tax and spending. It's about gripping this future. So William Hague was supposed to be a conservative, and he was like a child politician star back in the 70s when Margaret Thatcher came along. And Margaret Thatcher, of course, was supposed to epitomize small government and conservatism. And here he is now pushing for the government to be even more draconian. It's not good enough for him that government tax and spends. He wants governments to grip the future. So you as an individual will have no privacy, no freedom. I mean, one of the basic tenets of English common law is that you are innocent until proven guilty, that you should not have to provide anything to authorities unless they suspect you of committing a crime. So the fact that they're pushing for this is all very anti-common law, but common law is going out the window, of course. And you can bet they're going to link this up. This is all going to be linked up with CBDCs because you can see the kind of people the Blair Foundation is working with. Well, it's the World Economic Forum. We saw him at the World Economic Forum. Bill Gates, the big banks. When he retired from politics, Tony Blair, he worked for JP Morgan. They paid him £2 million pounds or dollars. I don't know. It doesn't really matter which one, but they paid that amount a year just to sit there in his own private office at JP Morgan in London. I've heard stories about this, that all the young interns and the young trainees at JP Morgan, they used to knock on his door every morning and say, "Mr. Blair, would you like a cup of tea?" And that's all he did. I wonder if he's still being paid by JP Morgan. I wouldn't be surprised, but maybe you know better than I do. So they're basically going to try to link it to the CBDCs because the BIS is involved, the central banks are involved, BlackRock, they're all together. It's this melding of public-private partnership. And if you remember well, if you're old enough to remember when Tony Blair came into power, he spoke about the third way, which is this public-private partnership. And Tony Blair, of course, we know his history vis-a-vis Iraq, him and Bush Jr. We know as well that Tony Blair is a Fabian, and Fabians, of course, their philosophy is slow and steady, a world of one world government. And the London School of Economics, of course, that is a creation of the Fabians, the Fabian Society. And you look at a lot of people, not just from the UK. For example, Paul Volcker, he went to the London School of Economics. So that's a den for globalists, the London School of Economics. They even lured Muammar Gaddafi into endowing the London School of Economics. Tony Blair got all friendly with him and then stabbed him in the back, of course. And talking about Muammar Gaddafi, I saw that Iraq now is going to adopt the petro yuan. They will accept yuan for their oil. So it looks like all the trillions that the U.S. spent and all the lives that were lost because of that illegal war, Mr. Blair, it was all done in vain. Why couldn't the West be friendly with other countries? Maybe we wouldn't be seeing all of this move away from the West, away from the dollar. But it's probably a good thing, though, because the dollar and the system of currency, I don't even want to call it money, that we have is not fit for purpose. So before we look at the markets, I just want to reference a book that I'm going to recommend again today. Many of you probably haven't heard about it because you're new to the channel, but it's called The Law by Frederick Bastiat, and it's the classic blueprint for a just society. It's not a big book, highly recommend it. And it's all to do with the size of the state, with taxation, freedom. And I think in this day and age, it's really important for us to let people know about these things. Am I hopeful we'll succeed in fighting these people? Yes. I mean, we just have to keep going. As long as the message is being broadcast, I think we have some hope. But this is what he says on page 21. And this applies to the conservatives, to the Democratic Party, to the Labour Party, because they're all the same. People, wake up. There is no alternative. It's just one. It looks like there is, but there isn't. We've seen with Hague and Blair, right? So this is what Frederick Bastiat says, the seductive lure of socialism. Here I encounter the most popular fallacy of our times. It is not considered sufficient that the law should be just. It must be philanthropic. Tax-free philanthropic foundations. Nor is it sufficient that the law should guarantee to every citizen the free and inoffensive use of his faculties for physical, intellectual, and moral self-improvement. Instead, it is demanded that the law should directly extend welfare, education, and morality throughout the nation. This is the seductive lure of socialism. And I repeat again, these two uses of the law are in direct contradiction to each other. We must choose between them. A citizen cannot at the same time be free and not free. So very simple. I think you can find this, a free PDF for this, or you can go on the Mises.org website and buy it there as well. I'm not sure if Amazon does it, but I'd rather you go to the Mises.org website because the Mises Institute deserves all the support it can get. It pushes for small government, for free markets, and yes, sound money as well, of course. So it's 8:22 a.m. London time. We've got spot gold. Let's see here. At 1827, it's up about $2. The range has been 23 to 34. Silver is up 6 cents at 21.57. The high has been 70 and the low 46. Yes, yesterday we saw the Fed minutes come out, and it looks like the Fed is still pushing for more rate hikes, which is not surprising. That's kind of been hurting stocks, of course, and it's been hurting precious metals a little bit. Dow futures this morning is up 100 points. The NASDAQ 100 futures is up 100 as well. The S&P is up 20 points, so it's back above 4,000 for the moment. The currency market is very steady. It hasn't really moved since yesterday. Not even the dollar yuan has moved that much, so I'm not gonna go through it. Let's check the other currencies here. The Aussie dollar has moved up almost 0.5% though. It's at 68.31. The dollar has moved down about 0.25% versus the Canadian dollar at 135.22, and the Kiwi dollar as well is up about 0.5%, 62.42. To the general commodities, platinum, that's trading around 952, so platinum is unchanged, but it has rebounded a little bit in the last few days. WTI crude is up 0.5% at 74.30. Brent is up 0.5% at 80.83. High grade copper is down 1% at 4.13. So now to the bond markets, the Bank of Japan, I talked about this yesterday. They did about $2 billion of QE to keep the 10-year below 0.5. I see that overnight it's gone back above 0.5 to 0.53. So I expect that the Bank of Japan did more QE today. I haven't heard it, but I'm sure we'll hear about it. Let's look at the UK gilt market, government bond market. I see trouble here. We're continuing to see yields go up. Right now, the 2 years almost at back up to 4%. We're at 394, up 2 basis points. The 10-year is up 4 basis points at 364, and the 30-year is above 4% now, up 4.5 basis points. And that doesn't bode well for the UK economy. And to finish off, the US 10-year yield, that's unchanged at 392. So with that, I'm going to wish you all a very good day. Take care. Bye.